Welcome to the Bowtie Treasure Studio. I'm Aaron, and as always, we have a project to work on. And this one's a little small one. Normally they're big, like a dresser or buffet or something like a cabinet. But once in a while we bust out the small projects, and we've got this really beautiful jewelry box that I picked up at an estate sale, and I thought it'd be fun to be creative on. These are great little projects to test out some techniques or just be creative and kind of mix things up if you're tired of doing the same thing over and over again. But anyways, we're gonna have some fun tonight and work on this. Hey Hope, how are you doing tonight? So yeah, let me just walk you through a little bit of what we're doing. Hopefully everything's gonna work great for us tonight. Let me show you the before picture, and I must give you an asterisk on the before picture because this actually did not come with the feet. The weird thing is it had holes, and I think they were probably little wood knobs and they just broke and came out. So I replaced those. So that's still mostly the before. And let me just show you real quick. You can go on Amazon and you can buy these feet. I just bought a set of them, and they're different colors, but I painted them. You could probably see, I picked maybe the bronzish version, but right now they've been painted, and they're gonna get probably a little bit of gilding wax before long. The inside has a tray, and I took that out. I always battle with what to do the edges, but normally I paint them because to me when I open it up, I don't want it to be like, and I don't want the wood showing on the edge. So I did B.O.S.S that. I'm not putting any texture on that. I also bought new mirror because it's a little worn out. So I'm putting a little bit of money into it just to upscale it, and hopefully I'll recoup that. If not, I had fun doing it. But this has since been painted with gray B.O.S S. And then I also used, which I don't use a lot of just because I'm not much into the texture, and that's Dixie Belle's Sea Spray. Now, if you read the directions on the back, let me bring up, make sure I'm not missing any more comments. It says mix 2 level scoops of sea spray to 8 ounces of Dixie Belle paint. Now I will tell you, this is 8 ounces of paint, and there is no way I'm mixing an entire 8 ounces of paint with 2 scoops of this. So my recommendation is try 1 scoop, put a little paint with it, because you don't need a lot of paint or a lot of the texture. So try 1 scoop with a little bit of paint, add a little bit more paint until you get that, it talks about a buttery consistency, peanut butter-like consistency. So you want something thick, it's not drippy. And, but again, I wouldn't shoot for 8 ounces of paint unless you're doing an entire dresser maybe, but that's a lot of paint. So I've done that part, and then using a paintbrush, dab and smush your paint to form crest and peaks. I've done that as well, and then it says once tacky, gently brush down the crest and peaks, creating texture. So I used a chip brush once this had kind of a tacky, and I just kind of brushed over it, and it got rid of the high peaks. You probably could use a palette knife or a scraper, whatever gives you the texture you want. Now, unfortunately, you may not know exactly what you're going to get until you start painting. At that point, you probably could paint, add some more texture, and keep going if you didn't get enough. If you didn't get enough texture, just try it again. It can't hurt. But the concept here is that I used sandbar, so you can kind of see the B.O.S.S looks actually kind of blue compared to the cream sandbar. That's sandbar and sea spray. And that'll play. So, and then when we do our sanding or whatever later on, that color will peek through, and that's kind of what we're looking for. I decided to go with more of a coastal vibe just because I got some inspiration images that I was looking at. I thought that'd be cool to do. So we'll try and do some blending with the sea spray and all that. It is difficult to blend with all these crevices. And all right, so I didn't do any practice. I've got a little Lazy Susan here, which I don't seem to see many of those nowadays, but you could probably make your own, but that'll come in handy for us. But we really want to create a nice coastal vibe, and what I mean by coastal is feels like got a little grit and sand in it, which it does. and coastal. So I'm going to use Sandbar and the Gulf. They literally have coastal names, Sand and the Gulf. So these are great. And also their values are pretty close. So when I do my blending, they shouldn't be too far away in value that I have this really strong contrast. Off in the distance, I have Gardenia and Cotton in case I need a white highlight. We'll see how that goes. Now, typically in blending, I usually work with 3 brushes, one for one color, one for the other, and the other one for blending. And so right now I've got all 1-inch or flat smalls. This one's an older one. You can see it's kind of worn out, but that's going to actually play to our favor. Other blending options are the French tip and the Belle brush. Those could work out pretty well. And by all means, I could still even use a premium chip brush, so that'd be fine too. Let's start with the darker color, and we will go from there. I'm regretting not having my bucket of water here. I always seem to have that. I have no specific place that I want to blend, but I think I'd like to do it below the lid. So somewhere in here. At this point, we just need to get the color on there, and I'm not too concerned about how beautiful this is, but we'll get the paint on there. And you can see me kind of dabbing because I'm having to get some of that color into the, in and around, forget my Mr. bottle, around the sea spray. Okay, so now you could blend one side at a time. I'm not sure that, I'm hoping I have enough time. If you're not going to blend one side at a time, then maybe keep your paint misted so it's not drying too fast. I tell you what, let's do. Let's do 3 sides, and we'll save the front for last because I just have a feeling that this paint's going to start setting on me before I can really blend 4 total sides. Do you see I'm not really super careful on getting every spot painted, and keep this organic and not so stiff. Put that brush to the side. All right, there we go. You see how I just put Sandbar on there, and I'm just going right into it. That looks great. Now I am getting a little bit of the Gulf in my brush, so I'm going to wipe my brush off before I do the next section. This is working out perfectly, and I'm not worried about going all the way up. All right, so what I'm looking for here is just some continuity between the 2 sides. I think that's fine. I will come back later on and do the Sandbar towards the top. And I really only listed 2 colors in this project because sometimes I don't know until those 2 colors work together. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. So we always stay agile around here, right? Yeah, that's looking good. I thought about doing a darker teal, but I just really liked how close they were in value. So let's do the front. I'm going to go back to the Gulf. Just give everything a quick mist. Watch the sides so I know kind of how far up to go. Sometimes I like to do little U-shapes, like swooshing shapes where I kind of go high and then low, but I'm not sure that really matters on this one. I am painting the hardware. I have, in my time painting jewelry boxes, sometimes they're difficult to get out. They're either glued, screwed in, and I've broken them, so I find them just easier to paint. I could always put some gilding wax on it by hand later on. That's such a cool look, even with just the B.O.S.S, the Sandbar. I think it actually might even be, well, it might be Sandbar, I can't remember. It's been a couple days since I did that. All right, now we're gonna go in with Sandbar again. Let's put a little mist on it just to get some extra water in there. I had considered maybe doing a woodgie bend, but I I forgot, and I don't know that I even have any wood bend that would fit on this little section, so we're just gonna leave it like it is. There's other ways to have fun. Now, I am not painting the lip right now. I'm gonna have to come in and manually do all that. It doesn't really account for the blending anyway. I'll probably use a smaller brush. Now, if you want to lift the lid up so you can see underneath, that's great. Starting to get a little bit more sandbar particulate, right? But see, just don't stress perfection in this case. Just get the paint there. To me, it needs to be organic anyway. And I like to come back later on and hit some of those edges too with other colors, so that would be fine. Let's go ahead and finish out the sandbar on the top. I do think it would be nice to put in some other colors. We'll just see how this goes. Colors like maybe we could do some highlight on the lid. I don't know. But to give it that like wind blown effect, the sea spray would probably is going to help with that, but I think also hitting it with a little bit of cotton or just a lighter color, whatever color you want to be lighter than the sandbar. Gardenia, I can't remember all the other lighter colors. Cotton, or not cotton, but fluff would be fine too. Just something light. I'll probably pull out my heat gun here in a minute and just accentuate or speed up the drying process. Now, because I am putting paint along the edges of this piece, it probably would be good for me to lift the lid while it's drying, or I may not be able to get this thing off, or at least wipe off any excess paint that is building up between the cracks. That probably would help it. But last thing you want to do is not be able to open this lid, because this chalk paint will dry. You have to get a screwdriver or something to open that up. And I'll go ahead and just paint some of the spots I missed. Once again, I'll come back and do the inside later on. It's just going to be a coat of the lighter color. So it is a good thing that we did the sandbar below this lip, so I can paint all the inside sandbar. To the side. So the next thing, I'm not sure this is going to work, so how well it's going to work, but the next is when dry, paint on another color, which we just did, then sand, easy peasy. So if that's the case, I'm going to grab just some 220 grit paper and a little bit heavier paper, and let's just put it to the test. Because if you don't sand, keep in mind, if you don't sand, you also can use paint, and I think you're going to accomplish a lot of the same thing. But the concept here is that when you're sanding, you're bringing back some of that color that was in the sea spray, and you're giving it texture. All right, this is 220, so it's not doing a lot of aggressive work. I got to get rid of that lazy Susan. And okay, so let's take a look at it now. And you can see like I'm getting some edges. So it's doing okay, but it's not really the look I want. I don't want necessarily the distressed look. I love the texture, it's totally cool, but I feel like I'm gonna get more bang for my buck by coming in. Let's pull out Gardenia. Gardenia is not white, it's kind of a very light cream. It's one of Dixie Belle's newer colors. And I say that because you can see how different between white and Gardenia is. I tell you what, I'm thinking about using a 1-inch brush. Let's do that. When I say 1-inch brush, one of Dixie Belle's craft brushes, artist brushes, because I want to be able to scrape paint. So at this point, what we're trying to do is we do want to catch that sea spray, but we're just giving it highlighted edge. So as much or as little of this as you want to do. Do you see how it's, and what I don't want to do is have a bunch of brush strokes, so I'm working with little paint. So I'm going to see if I can focus there. And just catch edges. This is the wind-blown look that I'm trying to go for. and it's going to add some more drama and interest to the edges. This could be any color. This could be another teal. This could be green, yellow. What, you know, if you've ever watched any of my other videos where they're more boho style. There we go. Probably a little too much paint in some areas, but I'm just kissing that sea spray. Because I don't want to do the sanding's okay, but it's not as much effect as I want. And it's possible I didn't put enough sea spray down, but I've done this technique of highlighting enough to know that I was going to be able to catch that sea spray really well. And so at this point, you're really just deciding, I just took a picture, how much or how little. Maybe go different directions. Sorry, I just took a picture. I was trying to push the focus button and it took a picture. So you see how that's working? And that just keeps, that's the coastal vibe I'm talking about, where we've got the sand color, the sea color, and now we've got more of a wind blown. Let's hit the hardware a little bit. Any color you want, really. Now I think I'm gonna go ahead and put highlights on the feet. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna put gilding wax on there. I might still do that. And I think if I do that on the feet, it would be nice to also do on the hardware. So that's what we're going for. I think we'll keep going around. There's some wet areas, but most of the wet areas don't have as much sea spray. So if you remember, I scraped off, even discharge wherever you want. Just discharge some of that paint off your brush so you're not putting much on. I mean, for that matter, you could almost see, I don't know if I'd use my finger on it, but you see how flat my brush is? Just hit it at an angle. Almost like wind moving along the edges of your project. Just flat, soft, light touch, bringing out that details. And most of my sea spray is only towards the edges, so it doesn't make any sense for me to go all the way down my project. I think that the top of this needs another coat of color. It's too thin, and in fact the whole piece could use another bit of color. But if you like the look of it, then only do one coat. It all just depends. So this could be your practice, and just say, you know what, okay, I like what I'm doing, now I'm going to come back and just do it a little bit more the next time, and that's okay. But we're getting the idea, right? Now, this is totally just, the reason I chose this theme is totally random. Not because I felt like this was a coastal piece. I would almost even say it has a little bit less of a coastal piece, but just a way to, in my area here in Pensacola, Florida, coastal is popular, so I oftentimes default to coastal. But you could go classy, you can go grunge, boho, so many options. Okay, so we totally transformed this from the, I was going to bring up the original one, the drab and brown. Kind of crazy to think about the fact that people love that look. I don't know if anybody would go and buy to the store and buy that today at all, but that's why painting furniture now and painting home decor now is I want to say it's still very valid, very popular, because you can do stuff like this. Now you can decorate around this theme. And around here we have a lot of Airbnbs, we have condos, we have all kinds of rental properties near the beach. So this will be a fun piece. Or someone just wanting something in their home is great. So there's plenty of coastal areas here. I'm trying to hide some of that distressing that the sandpaper did. I don't really like the brown showing through so much. But it's very appropriate to have a little distressing, but I'd rather have the windblown aesthetic and that dry brushing, that gardenia in there is doing great. Love how that looks. And just tell yourself to stop sometime, right? All right, let me see if I can give you all a little bit closer view at that texture. See it there? I think it's delicious. All right. And I think that works really well. So texture. Like I said, the bigger the piece, I think the more you can do with it. And went a little bit extra, but it's really great practice. You can imagine how this could translate to a larger nightstand or to a bigger piece. And like I said, the next thing I think is just making that decision of should we add any gilding wax. Now, in my opinion, I think that the gilding wax that I would probably add is going to be more of a copper or bronze, because that complements the green in the sea spray and has more of a warmer tone. Gold's okay, but the gold tends to start getting green, and when your Gulf is green, there becomes more of a clash than a complement. I hope this was helpful, showed you a little bit of fun and creativity you can have, especially with sea spray, adding some texture, getting that windblown effect, doing a little blending, and have fun with the project you might have. Holiday season's coming, so maybe a little project like this would allow you to do some gifts for some people. You can buy these things usually about $5 to $20 at estate sales, and you know, if you've got any girls or women in your life that are special, might like a jewelry box, this is a fun way to do that and customize it just for them. All right, I'm Aaron here in the Bowtie Treasure Studio. Until next time, y'all take care, do something awesome, be creative. We'll see you later.
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.